It's kind of fun, you know, but it's different. I recommend going. So I hope to see you there. I started kind of liking it after I won fights.
Sundell in the rain punches.
My problem is that I don't get enough fights. It's really cool. I think it's really cool to compare me to Ronda, you know. She's very big, so it's really cool to be compared to her.
She promised violence. She promised destruction. She promised a body on the canvas. What happened next shocked the crowd, silenced the trash talk, and flipped the fight world upside down.
Those punches, all of it. Sundell not disappointing in this debut, down to our final 10 seconds, and that is the end, ladies and gentlemen.
She called her a tall girl with no chin, but she was about to find out that Smilla Sundell doesn't just fight.
Oh my goodness!
She devours. In the cage, respect is earned in blood.
You've got to return. That's it.
But when you swear to take a life and get humbled instantly, the world stops turning. Today we're diving into the hurricane herself, Smilla Sundell, and the fighter who thought she could bully her only to be sent home in a daze.
Here we go. 150 pounds, Smilla Sundell versus Miranda Barber.
Before we look at the savage, ego-shattering finish, make sure to like and subscribe to the Band-Aid Battalion MMA. It's your mandatory daily dose of combat chaos. Let's get into the destruction. We have to talk about the absolute, unadulterated toxicity leading up to Tough and Off 151 in January 2026. Because what Miranda Barber did wasn't just selling a fight, it was signing her own death warrant in bold red ink. In the history of combat sports, we have seen trash talk, we have seen bad blood, and we have seen rivalries, but the energy Miranda Barber brought to this specific matchup was dark, it was personal, and frankly, it was disturbing. She didn't just want to win on a record, she wanted a highlight reel for the morgue. She wanted to be the person who didn't just defeat the hurricane, but the one who ended her, and she let the entire world know it every single time a microphone was shoved in her face. This wasn't your standard, I'm going to knock her out fight promotion. This was vitriol. Barber went on record everywhere, flooding social media with a relentless campaign of intimidation, swearing to kill Smilla Sundell inside that cage. She posted video after video, eyes manic, claiming the Swedish teen was all height and no heart, calling her a fragile stick figure who had been protected her whole career and who would snap like a twig the second things got rough. Dirty. Barber built this narrative that Smilla was a glass cannon, tall, scary from a distance, but physically weak once you got inside the paint. Barber was obsessed with the idea of bullying the quiet teenager, mocking her shy demeanor, mocking her silence, and treating Smilla's lack of trash talk not as discipline but as fear. The atmosphere reaching its boiling point at the press conference was something out of a horror movie. Barber refused to even sit down in her assigned seat. She couldn't contain the aggression. She paced behind Smilla like a caged animal, prowling back and forth, leaning over her shoulder, mimicking a throat slash for the cameras, and screaming at the reporters that Smilla was going to leave the venue on a stretcher. It was uncomfortable to watch. It was the behavior of someone who needed to convince themselves they were the alpha. And the craziest part? Smilla just sat there. She sat there with her hands folded in her lap, completely unbothered, staring forward with those dead, shark-like eyes. She didn't flinch when Barber screamed. She didn't look back when Barber threatened her life. She just existed. And that silence, that absolute refusal to engage in the circus infuriated Barber even more. It made Barber hate her. By the time fight night arrived, the tension in the arena was so thick you could choke on it.
So my opponent is from Florida, I think. Her name is Miranda. I don't know how to say her name, but I think that's her name. She's tough. So
Barber walked to the cage carrying that same dark, frantic energy, staring Smilla down in the center of the canvas like she was already looking at a ghost. You could see it in Barber's face. She truly believed she was the predator. She believed her own hype. She looked at Smilla's long, lanky frame and saw food. But the second that bell rang, the reality check hit Miranda Barber like a freight train loaded with concrete. The tall girl with no chin didn't retreat. She didn't circle away. She didn't show an ounce of the fear Barbara had promised the world she would expose. Barbara came out of her corner like a woman possessed, swinging wild, looping, murderous shots intended to take a head clean off. She was throwing with 100% power, hyperventilating with the effort, trying to manifest that knockout she promised, and she landed. She cracked Smilla. The crowd gasped, expecting the stick figure to crumble, but Smilla didn't even blink. She walked right through the fire. She ate the shots like they were appetizers, absorbing the kind of punishment that puts normal people in the hospital, and she just kept marching forward. This was the moment the fight changed. You could see a flicker of confusion in Barbara's eyes, a realization that the girl across from her wasn't a girl at all, but a Terminator in Muay Thai shorts. And then Smilla initiated the clinch. This wasn't just a grappling exchange. It was a vicious assault. It was a deconstruction of the human anatomy. Smilla reached out with those long, terrifying limbs, bypassed Barbara's frantic swinging, and locked her hands behind Barbara's head. The plum clinch. Once those hands were locked, the cage door essentially locked with them. Smilla began a rhythmic, violent execution that silenced every single person in the building who had doubted her.
More knees to the body.
Smilla pulled Barbara's head down and drove her knees into the ribs with the sound of car crashes.
Barbara is as tough as they come, but this is an onslaught.
Thwack, thwack. The sound was sickening. It was wet, heavy impact. Smilla wasn't just scoring points. She was rearranging internal organs. Barbara tried to wrestle out, tried to drop her weight, tried to throw punches to the body, but Smilla's leverage was absolute. She controlled Barbara's posture like a puppeteer cutting the strings. Every time Barbara tried to breathe, a knee slammed into her diaphragm. Every time Barbara tried to look up, an elbow sliced across her brow. In a matter of seconds, the look in Miranda Barbara's eyes shifted from a killer to a victim. It was pure, unadulterated panic. The sneer was gone. The trash talk was gone. The death threats were forgotten. All that was left was the primal, desperate need to escape the pressure. But there was no escape. Smilla Sundell is a python. Once she wraps you up, the squeeze only gets tighter. She physically broke Barbara's posture, bending her backwards, exposing the solar plexus, and driving the point of her knee through the target with the force of a hydraulic press. It was a systematic dismantling. Smilla didn't rush. She didn't look angry. She looked like a mechanic fixing an engine, except the engine was Miranda Barbara's torso and the tools were bone and cartilage. Barbara started to fade. The wild swings turned into weak shoves. The aggressive forward movement turned into a desperate retreat against the fence. But the fence is Smilla's best friend. She pinned Barbara there, trapped between the chain link and the hurricane, and unloaded a barrage that was uncomfortable to watch. The end came not with a knockout punch, but with a total bodily collapse. Smilla drove one final, devastating knee into the gut, and Miranda Barbara folded. She didn't just fall, she crumbled. She collapsed into the fetal position, clutching her midsection, gasping for air that just wasn't there. It wasn't just a TKO, it was a spiritual breaking in less than one round.
Sundell not disappointing in this debut, down to our final 10 seconds, and that is the end, ladies and gentlemen.
The woman who swore to take a life, the woman who mocked Smilla's heart, was left huddled against the fence, weeping in a pool of her own exhaustion and pain. Her ego had dissolved. The bully had been bullied, not with words, but with physics. The referee waved it off, saving Barbara from further destruction, but the damage was already done. The image of that fight is burned into the retinas of everyone watching. Smilla Sundell standing tall, barely breaking a sweat, looking down at the wreckage she caused, while Barbara lay there, broken. Smilla didn't scream, "I told you so." She didn't run around the cage taunting the crowd. She just stood there, silent, stoic. A chaotic force of nature contained in a teenage frame. This fight was a message. It was a violent, bloody PSA to the rest of the world. It proved that the loudest voices in the room usually have the weakest hearts. Barbara spent weeks winning the press conference, winning the Instagram algorithm, winning the psychological warfare, or so she thought. But the cage is a truth machine. It doesn't care about your followers. It doesn't care about your threats. It only cares about who can breathe when the oxygen gets sucked out of the room. Smilla Sundell proved that she doesn't need to promise violence to deliver it. She proved that if you disrespect the hurricane, if you question her heart, and if you promise to kill her, you better be prepared to drown in your own blood. The moral of the story is simple. If you swear to kill the hurricane, you better be prepared to drown. Smilla Sundell continues to prove that the loudest voices usually have the weakest hearts. Who is left to challenge the queen? Whoever it is, they'd be wise to keep their mouth shut. Thanks for watching the Band-Aid Battalion. We'll see you at the next weigh-in.